in the context of the e-commerce website, if we have decided that the first release is the catalog, and that is by November, going by November, and by February we planning to actually deliver the shopping cart functionality. You know what? December we get some major defects reported by the customer saying that I cannot see this item. It's actually saying no item available. I cannot see anything there. It is showing blank. There's no image. And when I click on this, nothing is happening. All of these there are so many defects being reported from the customers, let's say. So you know what, then you can actually prioritize those items, the defects and the bugs to be fixed on an immediate basis. You can actually push this release of shopping cart to some other time. So what you do, you reprioritize. You actually kind of look at this and then say, let's work on this. These are important and urgent things that need to be worked on right now. So the other things can wait. The new functionality of shopping cart can wait because these are more important showstoppers here. So the product owner and the team could actually decide that as the important thing. And by February, you know what? We might not be in a position to deliver the shopping cart, but fair enough. We have got more important, more urgent things to be sorted out, which is what we did. So we have reprioritized. So Agile gives you that flexibility to keep changing your direction, to keep changing your priorities, depending on the customer's needs, depending on the business needs. It's not driven by somebody else. It's not driven by the whims and fancies of some people, but it's actually driven by the needs of the customer. The market wants that. That means that they need it so badly that we need to fix it. We need to work on that. Let's do that, because it's actually driven by the customers. It's not some decision taken by somebody in the corner office, right? So that's the whole idea about Agile. So very important again to understand this. It is not automatic, fallback automatically. It just gets pushed off if something is not done. No, it's going back. If some items in the backlog, in the sprint backlog, have not been done, we're going to talk about the definition of done in a couple of slides later. So if there are about 6, as we discussed, if 1 or 2 items are not done, not delivered in that sprint, by the end of that sprint, then they actually go back to the backlog and they get reprioritized again. And as we see that the sprints are of very short duration, you're not talking about months or years, it's easy for us to plan and estimate, because whatever estimates, we talked about how we estimate, right? We talk about story points, the planning poker, and using those planning pokers and things like that. We can come up with the story points. We understand how it is done because there is a discussion, conversations happening between the team and the product owner and the business analysts. So the team is in a position to understand the requirements. Clearly, they engage in the conversation. They know how to implement it because they're talking only about those 5, 10. They're not talking about hundreds and thousands of requirements. They're talking about those 5 items that need to be done by end of November and by end of October or first week of November. So it is really, really unusual for the teams not to deliver something unless it is really complex or whatever. They could not see the complexity of that. They could not assess the size of a particular story. Usually, it works well. That's why the time boxing is very, very crucial. And then product owner refines, again, very important that the product backlog is actually being refined by the product owner. They do the prioritization, they do the reshuffling of items back and forth, and they actually take the priorities in terms of what should be done when. And so essentially the product backlog is groomed and refined and managed by the product owner, right? So they do this and then they say that, can you take these 15 items as the priority for the next sprint? So then what the team does is to basically look at the development team would look at those 15 items and then they do the estimates. They come up with, okay, this is the overall size of this set of story points. This is the effort that is required. And out of this 15, I think we can take these first 7 because we've got the technology, we've got the database ready, we've got some screens ready. I think we've got more requirements clear for this 7 instead of the 8. So we'll just pick these 7. So they can actually drop those rest of the 8 before the sprint planning starts. So sprint planning is the time when we actually kind of decide that this is going to be the scope for this particular sprint. These 7 items would be the would be delivered by the end of the sprint, right? So that's a call which can be taken by the development team, not the product owner, because they understand the intricacies, they understand the implications and the dependencies, the constraints, and everything else about the implementation of that set of stories. So out of the 12 or 15 stories that the product owner recommends for this, they would again filter it out based on this. They might actually accept all those 15 and say, yeah, we'll go ahead with this. Or they could actually come up and say that, you know what, we have understood that we can only deliver these 7 based on our estimates. Or there may be sometimes it can happen that they say that, you know what, we've estimated this 15, we still have some more capacity. We can do this 15 plus something else. So give us more. You know why it happens in Agile? Because they love to work and they love to deliver because of the ownership. It's quite unlike the traditional waterfall where somebody else is asking them to do some work. Somebody else is giving them the deadlines. In Agile, the development team does the estimates, they commit to the estimates, they do the work, they deliver, they own pretty much everything. So they're happy to actually kind of take more and more work if they have the capacity, right? So that's the whole idea of Agile. Again, we were talking about the convergence assessment and the divergence assessment and convergence, right? We were talking about this de-scoping, scoping, and re-scoping. Again, that's the whole idea of time boxing coming into picture.